All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with part 2 of the Zack Snyder's Justice League review. Part 2, The Age of Heroes. This is the SJP Files Movie Edition. I am your host, SJP. Yeah, that was slightly a little congratulatory to myself, but yay. Hey, this is, I'm trying to build an ambiance here. You don't like it? That sounds like your problem. But, part 2, The Age of Heroes, where we get Steppenwolf descending upon this, Russian town. I think it's supposed to be a substitute for, essentially, Chernobyl. That's what I'm assuming it is. It looks like that's what it is. Steppenwolf drops out of the boom tube. He looks around, drops a line. It's toxic, and we get Steppenwolf essentially placing the mother box that he just got from the Amazonians into this wall. That I'm assuming is not a wall. It's like a fixture he essentially has in the middle of this silo, of this nuclear silo. It's toxic. And we get one of the parts. Thank God that this part isn't in this movie. I hate the Russian family in the theatrical cut of this movie. It makes me want to tear my eyes out. It makes me want to claw my own eyes out. I hate that scene. Not that scene, those scenes with the Russian family. This is supposed to be like a toxic environment, which is why Steppenwolf chooses it. Also, we get our first mentioning of him instead of this crap with mother will be pleased. Mother, you will love me. I was like, now you get to see a fully realized character. You start to care for him a little bit. You start to go, well, who is he talking about? Steppenwolf mentions he will be pleased. He will see my worth again. Which from this dialogue alone, you get that Steppenwolf is seeking redemption. When he says the line, he will see my worth again, you can tell straight off the bat, he is seeking redemption. He wants to be forgiven for something, or he wants his boss essentially to see his worth. Now in this moment, we go from that scene to Bruce Wayne shaving his beard after his little, talk with Alfred on the tarmac, where you get to see the true opulence of his wealth. The man's got a military transport, essentially. The man owns his own military transport. It's ridiculous. And we get them trying to track down this would be our fourth member of the Justice League, Mr. Barry Allen, Bartholomew Henry Allen, for those of you who don't know his full name. Yes, I'm a comic book nerd. What do you want? All right. Bruce and Alfred, you kind of see their relationship here a lot, how much they trust each other, and you see a glimpse of Bruce's guilt about what happened to Superman. Bruce feels so guilty about Superman dying in the way that he did. Superman gave up his life because Bruce made a mistake in Batman v Superman, and that mistake kind of cost Superman his life. Now, it wasn't the main reason Superman died, but it was part of it, and he feels guilty for that. And him bringing this team together is him trying to make up for that. Now, after that, we get a scene that I don't think was actually in the original cut. Well, actually, I think this was in a theatrical cut. Like I said, I haven't seen the theatrical cut in years. I have no interest in ever watching it again, but I do remember some things. We get our first look at Silas Stone, who's another character who gets chopped in half in the theatrical cut. I think he's got like 2 scenes in the theatrical cut, and he's got a couple scenes, a couple important parts in the Snyder cut of this movie. You get the scene with him and the janitor, of course, and then after that you get him, after that you get the Amazonians. Trying to remember what the damn scene is this. Yes, after that you get the scene where the janitor gets kidnapped by one of the... That is it? Does he get kidnapped? He gets, I think you believe you see the janitor essentially get kidnapped by one of the parademons looking for the second mother box. Well, the third mother box, technically the mother box of humanity. You get their mother box, and then after this scene, you get the Amazons about to light the fire in the Amazonian temple in, I believe it's Greece. The Temple of the Amazons in Greece with the arrows of Artemis, and you hear, Queen of the Amazons lighting the way, saying a prayer over the arrow so that the arrow can guide Diana to the knowledge that she needs. The arrow of Artemis, she shoots it, it lights, and then we get Diana, we get this scene, same scene, Diana in working at I believe it's the Museum of, actually I think it's the Louvre in Paris. I'm pretty, it's either the Louvre in Paris or the British National Museum. I'm pretty sure it's the Louvre in Paris or the Louvre. Next scene, a scene that wasn't in the movie, we get the introduction of Ryan Choi, aka the Atom, who was completely cut out of the first movie. Of the theatrical cut, he was nowhere to be seen in it. Nowhere whatsoever. Silas is being questioned by essentially the DOD about the container that housed the mother box, which is now missing, but is actually in, Victor Stone's possession, or Silas Stone's possession. And they're questioning him about it, which is strange and ridiculous, because this question should be a lot. This questioning should be a lot more stringent, because he's a civilian contractor with the DOD, and he essentially just misplaced military alien technology, and we gonna let that one go. And then you see him pull up the door for the Superman ship, explaining to the doctors what he actually does there. And when the gates rising up, you get the Superman theme. You get the Man of Steel, the Superman theme, which is great. I love it. Absolutely love it. It's a great scene, kind of like a prelude to Superman. And then after this, you get Diana going out to this temple and grabbing the arrow after the fire has essentially extinguished itself. The fact that she could just walk in here. Suspension of disbelief. A fire comes out of nowhere at a historical site, and there's only two mall guards, 2 mall cops there, and Diana could just walk in there dressed in white with high heels, and nobody says anything to stop her. But hey, it's a movie. It's a comic book movie. Suspend your disbelief slightly, okay? Diana jumps down essentially into I'm not sure if it's a cavern, because they never say where this place actually is. I'm assuming it's essentially under this temple. And Diana jumps down in high heels once again. She looks beautiful. This scene, not in the movie whatsoever. From the moment she picks up the arrow, the scene kind of just cuts to another scene. And this one, you get the extended version of this scene where Diana goes down into the temple. The arrow is essentially used as a key to a door. Door slides up, and you get kind of this, like a picture story, a pictograph, hieroglyphs. You essentially get this story of about 5,000 years ago when Darkseid and his army came to conquer Earth, and they were beaten back, and now Darkseid's warriors, his generals, his parademons, they're back to conquer, to find the unity, the mother boxes, to form the unity, to conquer Earth once again. And this scene is fantastic in this movie. Once again, this is another one of those, why would you cut this out? This is good exposition. It's visually stunning. You understand now, even though Diana wasn't born, even though Diana is like 5,000 years old, she was born after this event. So this gives you okay, this is how she knows all of this stuff when she gives Bruce the history lesson in a later scene. So, and you get our first like picture of Darkseid on this wall. I can't tell, the marking is like in an Amazonian language, I'm assuming. It kind of looks a little bit like the Viking language. I don't know, it looks like that. I'm assuming it's like a derivative of that. So that's where, to get that visuals going. But that's kind of the way it looks. Next scene, we get the boat scene with Arthur Curry with the boatman who's drowning. Like I said, the first half of this movie, first hour of this movie is very similar to the theatrical cut. The first hour of this movie is very similar to the theatrical cut. It's a lot of the same beats, just the original scenes that were either slightly drawn out or just slightly different or just taking the stupid reshoots out. You get my man is essentially about to drown in the middle of the ocean. Arthur shows up, saves his life. Arthur saves my man's life. He shows up there, and instead of the scene where he drops the guy, walks into the bar, drops our almost dead sailor friend onto a table, requests whiskey, and instead of the guy, screaming, there was a sound in the ocean, there was a sound in the sky, and it like blew through his boat or whatever. There was no boom tube that blew through his boat. There was no blood from the parademons. Instead of Arthur just smiling, saying ocean madness, he says, tell your friend to respect the storm next time. Takes the bottle of whiskey, says it's on him, walks out. The guy on the table doesn't say a word. Everyone's looking at Arthur. He walks out, walks onto the pier, and you get the extended version of this scene that was in the original trailer, where Arthur's walking down the pier, swinging the whiskey, throws it away, and then takes his shirt off, and you see like the waves engulf him. Now this is another one of those scenes you could probably cut a little bit off. Like this, like right after he throws the bottle down, you could probably stop right there and then cut to the next scene instead of kind of just lingering on him as he's taking his shirt off. As that's for the ladies, he does look good, and the tattoos look great, as good as they looked in the Aquaman movie. But yeah, this scene goes on a little too long. You could probably cut 20 seconds. Like I said, as soon as he like throws the bottle down, there's no real need for any of this. No real need whatsoever. And then you could just cut to him in the water swimming, to him not swimming. He's not swimming, he's flying. Essentially he's flying in the water. That's always how I've seen Aquaman swimming in these movies. It's him flying through the water. He flies through the water like Superman flies through the air. It's not swimming. I don't know how how that propulsion works. We don't know how Superman's propulsion works. We can there's some educated guesses, but this it travels to another scene in the same vein, an extended scene where we see Arthur kind of travel to these ruins where he sees like a statue of one of his ancestors, King Atlan. I'm assuming it's Atlan. A statue of one of his ancestors, kind of just sitting there on like a throne with a trident in his hand. And we get our first look at Volko, who was also cut out of the theatrical cut of this movie. Now, I like a lot of these scenes for Victor and Barry and Arthur, because this is the first movie your introducing them in. By the time 2017's cut comes out, you've had Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Wonder Woman. So, but the Wonder Woman movie isn't really part of Zack Snyder's, vision for his 5-movie plan, but it's in this world to the point where when he talks about it, so we've got Clark in 2 movies. We've had Bruce in a movie. We've had Diana in 2 movies. And after this movie, there was supposed to be obviously the Ben Affleck Deathstroke movie that we'll get to when we hit the epilogue. But when this happens, it's a fantastic scene when you kind of get a little bit of the introduction that you get to Arthur Curry that you really should have gotten in the original theatrical cut, because at that point you knew, I guess they knew they were going to do an Aquaman movie, so they kind of cut this part out of the movie. I can see that. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with them cutting this scene out. You get Volko for the first time, and his great hair, handing Arthur his mother's trident and his armor, instead of him I'm assuming he got it from Mira in the theatrical cut when he turns back and says, "I'm gonna need you to do something for me." But this scene is fantastic. You kind of get Arthur's issues. You understand a little bit of Arthur's issues with his own people. He doesn't like the Atlanteans, doesn't trust them. You can tell that something happened with his mother. And you get Volko kind of trying to talk him into, hey man, you can't turn your back on Atlantis forever. You're Atlanta's firstborn. You're the true heir to the kingdom. And we want you and we need you to be back. And then we cut to, after that scene, after Volko leaves, we cut to Arthur looking back at the statue. And then we cut to another scene that wasn't in the movie, the great Steppenwolf like pleading to Desaad to let him speak to him. He's design still, once again, looks amazing. The armor kind of fluctuates given his mood. And you have Desaad also mentioning him. You get the different, also you see the different forms of the parademons. And instead of the parademons, sniffing out fear, they sense the presence of the mother boxes and talking about building a stronghold in his name. And you get the motivation for Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf in this scene, I've said this before, haven't said this on the show, but you get Steppenwolf, who's essentially he's a general. He's a general for a king who screwed up in a really bad way. He screwed up in a way that he essentially screws up in a way where Desaad, he's like I said, these two are kind of generals, and you have, I would assume Desaad would be more kind of like his, I'm not going to mention him yet, his strategist. And you have Steppenwolf, who was the general of the king, who plotted to overthrow the king, and at the last moment, Steppenwolf has a change of heart, kills all the rivals, falls to his knees, and because, he killed all the rivals, he gets to live, but he still has to be punished. And Desaad lets him know, mighty Steppenwolf, if you hadn't been, undone by your own pride, you'd be standing here with us. And he falls to his knees, pleading to Desaad that he wants to go home. Now those who know the comic book know that Steppenwolf is actually Darkseid's uncle. So, but Darkseid is still king. He's their god. He's the new god. He's their god, and Steppenwolf is just pleading. He just wants to go home. And Desaad tells him, you betrayed him, your own family. You betrayed him, your own family. Steppenwolf says, I saw my mistake. I slaughtered all of his enemies. And Desaad tells him, you still owe the Great One 50,000 more worlds. And the look on like Steppenwolf's face, it's heartbreaking. He realizes that, oh my God, 50,000 more worlds. And Desaad tells him he will pay. He will hear your plea when you pay your debt. And then we get Desaad, and we get Steppenwolf saying, there are no protectors here, no lanterns, no Kryptonian. This world will fall like all the others. And Desaad, in this like projection of Desaad, says, for Darkseid, and then Steppenwolf, and then Desaad disappears, and Steppenwolf once again replies, for Darkseid. It's a amazing scene that does so much for the character of Steppenwolf. Hand of applause for Steppenwolf, man. That's it. Hand of applause for Steppenwolf. It's, yo, let me get some shots for Steppenwolf too. That's what I'm talking about. What? I love this scene. I absolutely love this scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It does so much for the character of Steppenwolf. So much in a way that the theatrical cut does nothing for Steppenwolf. He's like a generic villain that does nothing. And you can kind of see that because this is like the scenes, a lot of the scenes that Joss Whedon reshot were the Steppenwolf scenes. And it does nothing for me. It's so bad. It's so terrible. And after this, we cut to Diana about to give Bruce a history lesson in Bruce's harbor. I'm assuming in Gotham Harbor. Bruce is trying to repair his ship. And this scene is in the movie. This singular scene. And instead of them going out to the ocean, essentially going out to like the cave, like a lake near, I'm assuming, on Bruce's property, where Diana gives him the history lesson. She gives him the history lesson here. And Diana and Bruce, they're kind of having their back and forth. Like I said, this scene is in the movie, so I'm not really going to go over it. I'm going to go over most of the scenes that aren't in the theatrical cut of the movie. And here's when Diana is just about to break it down. And it's like I said, instead of going outside, they're inside while Bruce is still trying to fix the troop carrier that we see later on in the movie. This scene where Bruce is fixing this ship, pays off. Now, this scene, the history lesson scene, has a little more backstory. You see Diana's father, Zeus, her brother, Ares, and her sister, Artemis, all in this scene. And you see like a primitive Green Lantern. I wouldn't say prehistoric. Sorry, I didn't mean primitive. You kind of see like a bit of a prehistoric Green Lantern. And then you see the Atlanteans. And this scene also has a bit of dialogue from Diana that I love. It's where she explains who's there: the tribes of man, the old god Zeus, his son Ares, who's her brother, and her sister Artemis, who they don't actually say is her sister, but if you know the mythology of these characters, you know that Artemis is also Zeus's daughter, so that would make him her sister. You have the Atlanteans before their descent into the sea, the Amazonians before they were betrayed and enslaved. For their betrayal and enslaved. None of these tribes really trust each other. You had Guardians from the Stars, of course. Our Green Lantern are kind of like prehistoric Green Lantern, and from like kind of like a species of, I would kind of say like dinosaurs. And then you have our first look at Darkseid in action, like a young Darkseid before he steps onto the throne, jumps off his ship, lands on the ground, hands in the dirt. And in the movie, in the theatrical, this is Steppenwolf, not Darkseid. But no, here it's Darkseid. It's Darkseid. He's got the Omega symbol like carved into his chest. He's got his weapon. I don't know what you would call it. He slams it into the ground, and it reveals the anti-life equation, which, if you're a comic book fan, you know exactly what that is. If you're not a comic book fan, the anti-life equation is kind of an equation that allows you to take away the free will of any creature and makes them subservient to you. That's what anti-life is. It's life without freedom, essentially. Life without free will. And this is the equation that Darkseid has been searching his entire life for. And eventually... And eventually he finds it on Earth, and then he plans to take the world. This is before Darkseid has essentially, they say this is before Darkseid has taken the throne later on in the movie. So this is the scene where Darkseid he's still in this flick, but he hasn't ascended to his throne as the god, essentially, of Apocalypse. And then you have all the tribes of men, all the various cultures on the world. You have the Amazonians, the Atlanteans, the gods, all charging and going to combat. This scene is similar to the theatrical cut scene, but it's longer. It's better. It's better fighting. You have Diana's aunt in this movie, whose name escapes me, and then you have the old gods charging in with our Green Lantern, whose name we don't know. We don't ever find out. I don't know. He's not from this planet, but Green Lantern doing his job. And then you have the parademons, who look just, like I said, so much better in this movie. And you have all the Amazons going at it. I mean, it's big, giant fight scene. And we had a cool scene from Zeus and Artemis and Ares, who I don't think we saw in the theatrical cut. I don't think we saw Ares in the theatrical cut of this movie. You see Zeus kind of charging up lightning. Just lighting these fools up. Just completely like frying them. And then Darkseid's mystics get shot to death by arrows. And then Green Lantern attacks Darkseid. Parademons attack the Green Lantern, and Darkseid ends up killing our Green Lantern, whose name we don't know. But then the Green Lantern's ring flies away looking for its next bearer. And we have Artemis shooting, Apocalypse a couple times with her arrows. And then we have the King of Atlantis at the time. I'm assuming that was probably supposed to be Atlan, kind of like throwing like a shockwave with his trident that we'll see from Arthur later on in the movie. And then we see Ares essentially bury his axe in Darkseid's chest. Doesn't kill Darkseid. Essentially, looks like he's about to kill Darkseid. Darkseid is bleeding. Parademons come to take Darkseid away, while Ares starts just like chopping him down. And then you see Darkseid kind of, bleeding out, and then he just passes out from the blood loss, essentially. And his army is defeated, and the three tribes are essentially just sitting there looking at the mother boxes after Zeus hits it with lightning, and the mother boxes essentially just like fall into their three separate pieces. And after this, Artemis blows up one of the ships that's attempting to retreat with her arrows. The Amazonians, the Atlanteans, the humans, the old gods, they're all victorious. The Amazonians look fantastic. They look amazing. So do the Atlanteans, the old gods, the various tribes of mankind. And you get the story of, they did what no other world had done before them. They did what no other world, the three mother boxes never synchronized. Unity never came to pass. This was the first and only world to ever beat back, essentially, Darkseid and his army. And you get this scene where they're all like, yeah, woo, woo, hand of applause for everybody, hand of applause, yes. Now, you get the various tribes all kind of like standing there with each box, and you see what they all did with their boxes. The each tribe took a box. The Atlanteans took a box. The Amazonians took a box, and the humans took a box to all hide and guard forever. The Atlanteans, took their box, sealed it in something. Each tribe took the box in accordance to their own rituals. The humans sealed their box in essential like metal, and then they buried it. The Atlanteans sealed their box in like some like, I'm not sure, like squid box thing. They put it in like a squid box. I have no idea. They had some tentacles on it, and then they locked it away. And then you have the Amazonians, same thing. They sealed their box into something like metal magic. There's like some sun rays on the shit, and then they lock their box away. And then boxes are sealed. Each tribe has their own box, and then you get Queen Hippolyta placing it in this tomb. And once again, the Amazonians look amazing in this movie. They look so strong and powerful and just physically just dominant in this movie. And after the boxes are essentially sealed and buried and placed in their own respective kind of like, either strongholds. The other two boxes are placed in strongholds where they are consistently guarded, while the humans, they took their box and buried it. They took their box and buried it, and then Diana tells Bruce something woke the mother box that my people guard, and it called out to the darkness in the universe and brought one of Darkseid's generals here to look for the other two boxing it. Look for the other two boxes, and then we have Diana and Bruce talking. They said the age of heroes will never come again, and Bruce says it has to. And Diana asks, where are the others? And then I believe this is where we cut to part 3. Beloved Mother, Beloved Son, which is where we're going to stop. And this is part 2 of Justice League, the Snyder Cut, The Age of Heroes. Tomorrow I will be doing part 3. Beloved Mother and Son, after I watch it again. And then I will be doing part 4 on, what's today, Wednesday? I'll be doing part 4 on Friday, part 5 on Saturday, and I believe there's part 6, and probably I'll do part 6 on Sunday. I may do hold on. Because tomorrow I'll do part 3, that's for sure. Friday I'll do part 4. I'm off Saturday. Actually, I think I'm off Friday and Saturday from work, so I'll probably do parts 5 and 6 on Saturday. I'll probably do parts... Actually, I'm still thinking. Because I keep changing my mind. I'm really sorry about that. But, yeah, I'll do part 3 tomorrow. Part 4 and 5 on Friday. Parts 5 and 6 on Saturday, and I'll probably do the epilogue on Sunday. That is the plan. Beloved plan. Hopefully it's a plan that works out and I don't get completely exhausted. But this is it for episode 2 of the SJP Files Movie Edition. I am your host, SJP. This is part 2 of Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. It's a great movie. It's amazing. Once again, hand of applause for Zack Snyder. Fantastic movie. He deserves it, man. He really does deserve it. Zack Snyder really does deserve it. So shout out to Zack Snyder. Thank you once again for listening. I'll be back tomorrow.